I have a question. Do Amish people have graveyards, or what do they do with the fellow Amish people that pass away? Amish graveyards are generally in the corner of an Amish farm somewhere, land that is donated to the community for that purpose. They will build a fence around it and expand the wooden fence as need be. And in my community, they had two graveyards, one on one end and one on the other. My grandpa donated part of his farm for the one on our end of the community, and him and my grandmother, as well as a couple of my cousins, are buried there. And then the graveyard on the other end of the community, my grandma and grandpa on the other side of my mom's side of the family are buried there. So my two sets of grandparents are buried in separate graveyards, but in the same community. But it is hard as an English person to notice these graveyards. They're not advertised. Normally there's a fence, you know, or a gate or something to protect them from the rest of the field or the public or something. If you don't know they're there, you probably won't ever see them unless you see a funeral procession. And then you will see, like, the one where my grandpa's farm was. There, the buggies just drive in through, like, a small hole in the trees. And then they're kind of out of sight back there by the graveyard. And it sits there kind of on a hill. It overlooks a ravine with a creek running through it. Very peaceful place. And my grandpa, you know, was able, after we laid Grandma to rest, he was able to go back there and visit her. And he lived to be 91 years old. But he would go back there and visit her, walk back there until he was, you know, in his 90s. And so it was, I think, a comfort to him to have it there on the farm. God bless you all. Stay safe. Where would you be buried if you passed while you're shunned? So if I had passed away right after I left the Amish, my family would have taken me and buried me in the Amish cemetery, but it would have been outside the fence since I was being shunned. Now, if I passed away now, I don't know, they might still want to do that. I don't know if they would or not, or if they wouldn't care, you know. So it's hard to say. I don't really have a final resting place picked out. I would be happy to be buried in the Amish cemetery outside the fence. I would be okay with that. Being outside the fence would not bother me. I know a lot of people complain about that, but there's no fence underground. So I would still be right next to my grandparents and my family, my relatives. You know, I don't think it would be a bad thing, and if I had a choice, I would probably prefer to be buried in the Amish cemetery outside the fence. Even though it's outside the fence, I would prefer to be buried there rather than any other cemetery where there's nobody there that I know. The fact that it would be buried outside the fence would not affect me at all in the afterlife, I don't believe. I know that some people think that that's a sad situation. To me, it would be the perfect situation, you know. I don't care if it's inside the fence, outside the fence. It's not going to matter to me. So anyway, I don't know where I will be buried, but I would be okay with that. God bless you all. Stay safe. Do Amish have headstones, and do the Amish believe in ghosts? So yes, the Amish do have headstones. In my community, there were simple white headstones with a rounded top and a small inscription on it with their name, their birth date, and then maybe who they were married to, or, you know, whose child they were, if it was an infant or a child, and then also the day that they passed away. But all of the headstones in our cemeteries looked alike. None of them stood out. We didn't have flowers or anything like that. Just a simple stone, you know, and then we had grass around it, and that was it. Like I said, no decorations, nothing fancy. You know, we just didn't believe in having fancy things, I guess. And as far as believing in ghosts, I have never met an Amish person who has claimed to have seen a ghost. Now, some Amish are definitely superstitious, some more so than others, you know, but I have never heard of an Amish person, or I've never met an Amish person who claimed to have seen a ghost. I have, you know, met some that had some strange stories, but not specifically about ghosts or anything like that. I've never seen a ghost, and I don't, like I said, never met anybody who has. God bless you all. Stay safe.